You are a cuck. I mean, I'm sorry. This is gonna be a crazy moment in my channel history. I'm breaking character. Yo, bro. So y'all really like that last Mr. Nightmare reaction about the last day of school. Thank you. I appreciate it. We got another one right now, and it's just simple. 3 disturbing true scary stories. Let's get into it. I mean, honestly, the school stories weren't that scary.
We moved into my grandparents' house
Here
in
we go.
2016 when they decided to downsize. I was 9. They had built the place in the early 90s, and it sits on 5 acres out on the outskirts of a small southern town. Woods and open fields stretch around it, and a slow, muddy river winds past our southern fence line. On 2 sides, our property touches our only neighbor's land, an odd, crooked patch of acreage with a house that felt like it was sinking into the ground.
It's a nice
That
house,
house
though,
was
honestly.
old. The original farmhouse had been built in the
Is
1920s,
this real
and
footage?
over the years, it had been added onto in all the wrong ways, like someone stapled extra rooms together without a plan. The siding was discolored and soft looking.
Oh, never
Every
mind.
time you glanced at it, it just looked wet, even on dry days. The yard was a
That's crazy.
nightmare.
I know what that
Overgrown
sounds
bushes
like.
tangled with vines, broken fountains surrounded by weeds,
That's AI.
gnomes missing heads, and old trash that looked like it had been there for years. Grocery bags flapped in the tree branches. A rusted lawnmower sat in the middle of the grass like it had died mid-job and was never moved.
Crazy.
It was the place that made you want to hold your breath when you walked by. At the time, the house was home to 2 elderly sisters, Violet and Agnes, and 3 kids. Violet was the quieter of the 2, always sitting on the porch in a faded green rocking chair, just watching the trees. Agnes was sharper and more active, but she still moved
Wait,
like her
these are your
bones hurt.
grandparents or the neighbors?
Both women were in their 70s at least. The kids were their grandchildren. The boy, Liam, was my age and in my grade at school. The other 2 were girls named Allison and
Yeah, it
Kelsey.
must have been
They were
neighbors.
the same age as my younger sister.
Of course they were.
Liam was weird. I didn't like him, and I
Damn.
didn't want to hang out with him. But we were in the same class, so we got lumped together a lot. He took that as permission to just show up at my house whenever he wanted.
I mean,
No
you are
knocking or
neighbors.
texting. I'd be playing a game in my room and turn around, and he'd just be there. One time,
Okay, how does that work? You just gonna walk in the house? Like, your parents aren't gonna, like. Well, maybe, obviously, your parents might have let him in. Maybe they didn't. Maybe he just snuck in. Like, you know?
I looked out my window and saw him doing cannonballs in our pool. Another time, he
I
walked
mean,
straight into the kitchen, opened our fridge, and started eating a slice of leftover pizza with his hands like it was no big deal.
that is kind of crazy.
When we hung out, he wasn't fun.
Damn.
He was obsessed with anime, like really obsessed, but I didn't watch any, so I had no idea what he was talking about.
Okay, I mean, that's normal.
He'd say weird lines in Japanese and get mad when I didn't laugh.
Damn.
Sometimes he'd get this look in his eyes, like he was imagining something violent. One time he chased me with a pair of sharp garden shears, swinging them around and laughing like it was a game. Another time we were on an old wooden
That's
bridge
not
that
good.
crosses the creek near the back of our properties, and I swear he tried to push me in. He claimed it was a joke, but the way he smiled after, I knew he meant it.
Man, beat his ass.
The twins were different, quiet and almost invisible. Their clothes were always dirty, and they had speech impediments that made it hard to understand them. It was obvious nobody at home was helping them. Their voices were garbled, like they were still toddlers, even though they were 7. They flinched easily, and they always looked hungry. Their dad was in and out of jail, so he wasn't around. And that brings
Okay.
us to the mom, Teresa. The first time I saw her, she was trying to hook a hose up to the spigot at the edge of their property, right near our side yard. She was tall, way taller than anyone else in her family,
I don't like
and
that.
heavy set,
I'm
with
gonna lie.
long, thick, curly black hair and glasses that looked like they belonged in the 80s. She was different,
Glasses like
put
these?
together in a way that the rest of the family wasn't. Her clothes were clean. Her hair was always styled, too. She smiled at me like she'd been waiting for me to come over.
She's trying to
She
get
asked
into
me if I
something.
could help her with the faucet and said it was stuck. I walked over and turned it, and it moved easily. She gasped and clapped her hands, told me I was so strong and how
Well,
lucky she was I came over.
that's normal. I think
I
she's just
felt
trying to,
proud. She made me feel like I was something special.
boost your
Then she
confidence.
said, "Did you know you have a third eye?" I
Okay, never mind.
blinked. What? She smiled wider and said we all have one. Not a physical eye, but a spiritual one. She said it lets you see the truth, whatever that meant. Before I could
Yeah.
ask anything, She started walking back toward her house and told
No
me to
wonder
come
the
with her.
grandparents downsized.
So I did. The inside of their house hit me like a wave of rot. It smelled like spoiled food, mildew, and something worse I couldn't place. Trash was everywhere. Garbage bags torn open, rotting food on plates, stained furniture, even dirty diapers were stuffed behind the couch.
That's
I tried to
disgusting.
leave, but Teresa grabbed my wrist and led me upstairs.
That's
Her
not
room was nothing
okay.
like the rest of the house. It was pristine.
She
with
trying to,
pink
you know,
wallpaper, clean
do something to
carpet,
you?
shelves full of porcelain dolls, and very ornate old furniture. The air smelled like rosewater and old perfume. It was like I stepped into a different building. She gestured for me to sit on a little cushioned stool in the corner, and then walked over to her vanity and opened a drawer. She pulled out a silver tray with a black candle, a crystal, and a thick, leather-bound book.
Yeah,
The
she's
second I
gonna.
saw the pentagram on the cover,
She gonna
my
cast a spell on
stomach
you.
turned. My parents are Catholic. I knew what that symbol meant. And suddenly,
Yep.
I started seeing it everywhere. On the jewelry box,
course you
on
did.
the mirror's frame, and peeking out from under the corner of the rug on the floor, etched into the wood. I
That's
jumped
insane.
up. Sorry, my mom wants me home. Bye. I didn't wait for a response.
Respect.
I ran. In 2019, Agnes had a heart attack and died inside the house. I
Damn.
heard she collapsed in the living room in front of all of the kids.
Rest in peace, Stan.
I went to the
That's-
funeral. It was in this rundown
That's messed up.
Baptist church on the edge of town. The family was stone-faced, like they didn't know how to react, except for one woman who I'd never seen before. She sat in the second pew, sobbing so loud it echoed. Nobody acknowledged her. That same year, Liam disappeared. The story was that he tried to kill one of the twins and was sent to a psychiatric facility.
What?
I never got the full details, but my parents sat my sister and I down that night and said, in no uncertain terms, we were never to go near that family again.
Then
I
move.
remember their faces,
Like-
grim and serious. That's when it all clicked. All the little things I hadn't understood. The weird stuff, the fear. Eventually, the rest of the family moved away. They left Violet behind, just an old, frail woman living
What?
alone in that collapsing house.
That's
She passed away in
just rude.
2020, alone, in that house.
now she haunts
Her
the house.
estate went up for auction. A few months later, one of my old elementary school teachers, Mrs. S., bought it with her husband. They
She's
tore
cooked.
down most of the structure, but kept the original 1920 section, the same part where Teresa's room had been. Mrs. S. invited us over to see the renovations. It was beautiful. Open floor plan, all new appliances,
It did not
and
look like
fresh
this.
paint. She showed us upstairs, and that's when
But-
my skin started crawling. We were in her room, and I could feel it. Even though the floors were carpeted now, I knew the pentagram was still there, like the floor remembered. I felt nauseous,
Well, obviously
like
it would.
something was watching me from the walls. I told Mrs. S. I had a headache and had to go. She was disappointed. I was supposed to stay for dinner. I avoided the house after that, until last year. Mrs. S. asked me to dog sit while they went out of town for a week. I said yes. I figured it was just a job. Easy money. Every
Easy
night
money.
I'd ring the doorbell and they'd buzz me in through the smart lock. Their dogs, a Shih Tzu named Muffin and a snorting little pug named Henry, would greet me,
Henry.
tails wagging. The first 4 nights were quiet, peaceful even. I'd feed the dogs, play with them a bit, turn on the porch light, and lock up. But on the last night, I was about to leave when Henry started barking at the staircase. He planted his little legs and just barked
Victoria.
over and over. Muffin backed away, whimpering. There was nothing there. And then thump. It came from upstairs. Another thump, louder this time. I didn't stay to investigate. I ran to the front door, slammed it behind
Just
me,
leave the dogs?
and locked it. The whole walk home, I couldn't shake the feeling something had.
Did you really leave the dogs? That's kind of fucked up, bro. You're just gonna leave the dogs in here to suffer? Well, I'm sure maybe a ghost would never hurt a dog. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they just don't hurt dogs. But like, bro, you really just gonna leave them? I wouldn't leave them. I'd at least take them.
Follow
Yeah.
me. Now it's 2025. We hadn't heard a word about the family in over 4 years. That is, until recently. A girl from school told me she saw Teresa at a farmer's market in a nearby town. Apparently, she started some kind of religious group. Calls herself a truth seer.
Yeah.
They live in a mobile home community far out in the woods. Flyers have started popping up on bulletin boards and telephone poles. I don't trust it. I don't trust her. I think Teresa is truly evil. I mean, she neglected her kids. She left her mother in that house to rot. And I think she brought something into it. Something dark. Something that stayed behind. I
Victoria.
still have nightmares of
Like-
her and Liam. They stand at the foot of my bed, staring at me, not speaking at all. And every time I pass by that house, even now, I get chills.
How old are
The
you
good
now?
parts, such as the paint, the furniture,
Okay.
it's all
Oh.
surface level. That place remembers, and I don't think it ever let go of what happened there.
Okay. So yeah, I think he was like 9. So now he's like ish. He's like 18-ish. Okay. Here we go. Second story. Keegan Miller.
My name is Keegan. I reside in Michigan with my parents. High school was a decent timeline for me, as I had gotten to meet various new people during my time there.
That's cool.
Obviously, I also had some people I tended to hang out with outside of school. The only time I really hung out with them was at places like my local community center, where we would work out and play basketball. Back in
Sounds like
freshman
fun.
year, it was getting close to the end of the year, and I was excited for summer break to be coming. I would be starting driver's training, and even start doing a side job to at least begin making money, so I didn't have the fastest start. I had this one friend named Clayton. I would usually hang out with him at least once a week. He was a grade lower than me, his final year of junior high. We were to some extent good friends, and my dad and I even took him to a Detroit Pistons basketball game
I
at
feel
one
bad for
point.
you.
He was quite a big basketball fan, so he was more than eager to attend his first game. Despite all the fun activities in the past, it was until I started becoming more busy that he was somewhat beginning to change. He would usually get a bit sad or angry because I'm not free on a specific day. He was the kind of person to have some pretty intense anger issues when he got pissed off enough. I
Damn.
remember this one day when I told
Couldn't
him
be
I
me.
wasn't free again and that I would be home cleaning. It seemed as if he would find the right days where I'm not available to hang out. I didn't check my phone until after I finished cleaning.
It'd always be like
I
that
found
too.
out that he
Like-
removed me on Snapchat. I messaged him on Messenger, asking why he got so mad and why he decided to remove me as a friend. He assumed I was lying to avoid hanging out with him. That thought crossed my mind for a while, and I even followed up with it at times because he was starting to become more obnoxious. On occasion, I would lie and say I'm doing something, going somewhere, or already made plans with another friend. He felt so left out that one day, when the sun had set,
Bro, I'm not
he
any
showed
other
up to
friends.
my
Like,
apartment I was living in at the time unannounced. I asked him why he didn't text me ahead of time. Nothing. He just stared at me for a few seconds before walking away slowly.
beat his ass.
Why was he here at this
Like,
hour?
come on,
Why
bro.
didn't he say anything? Why did he just give me this 1,000-yard stare as if...
Nah, bro. Pull him back and beat his ass. I don't care. Like, the fuck you gonna show up to my house for, bro? Unannounced. You don't even talk anymore. Like, come on.
I did something to offend him. I hadn't spoken to him the next day. That's also when I turned off my Snap Map on Snapchat.
He's mad the
to
Pistons
hide
were
my
bad at this
location
point.
from him after he
Yeah.
apparently added me back. Some time had gone by, about a month, and he's still the same person, angry or sad when I can't pay him a visit. That's when I got a text from my friend, Nick, who I barely saw in person. He knows Clayton and his ex-girlfriend. Nick had told me some gruesome things about him and what he's done, but my heart dropped as I heard from him and Clayton's ex that he held a knife at his ex-girlfriend's throat and sexually assaulted her. I knew that he was a psycho right
Wow.
then and there.
I told
I
you you should have
removed
beat his
him as
ass.
a friend on all platforms without any hesitation. He texted me on Instagram before I removed him on there too. He blew up my phone with messages asking why I'm removing him.
Bro, sound like he obsessed, bro. He's an obsessed gay stalker. Like, you know what I mean, bro? Why he's so obsessed with him, bro? He must be in love with you. Like, he has to be in love with you. This is the same situation the last story, the last day of school story, where like that one dude was obsessed with the other dude. Same thing here, bro. Like, are you in love with him? You had an ex-girlfriend that you SA'd. How are you now? You're just gonna switch sides? Like, come on, bro.
I just told him I needed some time to myself and I would add him back when I'm better. But I used that as an excuse to get away from him.
That's not a good
That
excuse.
night, while I was home alone since my parents went to the next
I would've
town
called
over
him a
for
bitch.
dinner with some old friends of theirs, I heard a knock at my apartment door. I looked out of the peephole and no one was there. I opened the door a crack to survey the hallway.
Clayton's under
No
the
one.
door.
I figured it was someone ding-dong ditching. I figured they wouldn't come back.
That was the best
But when
case
I
scenario.
randomly looked out my bedroom window, The light was burned out by the sidewalk. I noticed a small flash in the corner of my eye, and I thought it was from inside someone's car, but I felt my stomach drop when I saw a tall figure standing in front of my window. It was him. I opened my
Yo,
window and told him to go away and that I don't want him here. He told me to let him in so he could tell me something.
I mean, like, bro, like, if you just want to hoop, bro, fine, we can go hoop. Like, we can go hoop this weekend. Like, what is your problem, bro? Like, you're not gonna be a Pistons basketball player. Like, get out of here, bro. Go to the
I
G League.
firmly said no and told him I want him gone, but when he began to move around a bit, I noticed something was in his hand.
A knife.
I couldn't exactly make out
Or a
what he was
gun.
holding until he held it up. And when I tell you I was frightened, I felt as if I was going to pass out. Because I shit you not, Clayton was holding a knife in his hand. I told him I was calling the police, but he had already taken off by the time the police had gotten there. I gave the best description of him that I could describe to the cops. I haven't heard a word about or from him since that horrific night. I honestly wouldn't be so surprised if you were trying to kill me while I was home alone. I believe he had murderous intentions. I assumed he probably ended up in juvie after what happened.
Juvie.
Not only was I horrified from that experience, but it may have been one of the most traumatic moments of my life. Having your parents gone along with it makes it feel undeniably more unsettling. I'm glad I disconnected all contact from him when I did, because I think if I continued to remain friends with him, I probably could have ended up as one of his endless punching bags, or even worse,
I
dead.
mean, yeah, bro. It would at that point just like, bro. Told you should have beat his ass when he showed up at your door the first time.
This happened in late 2022, when I went on what I thought would be a fun and simple first date with someone I matched with on a dating app. Her name was Emily, and we had been texting for about 2 weeks before deciding to meet up. We both shared a love for horror movies, and when Smile came out, we agreed that seeing it together would be the perfect
I never
first
watched
date.
Smile. I gotta watch it.
We picked a weekday night, Thursday. It was a late showing, 10:15 p.m., and at a small, older theater just outside of town. I offered to drive and picked her up around 9:30.
Running out of gas.
She seemed normal, friendly, maybe a little shy. She was quiet for most of the drive, but opened up once we started talking about horror movies we liked growing up. When we got there, the parking lot was almost empty.
That's
I
not a
joked
good
about
sign.
how this theater looked like something out of a horror movie itself. Dim lights, flickering neon, and not a single person in the lobby when we walked in.
That's not good.
There was only one guy working at the concession counter, and when I asked if it was going to be a full theater, he laughed and said we were the only ones who had bought tickets for that showing. At
Of course.
first, I thought that was great. No crowds.
That's
Just me, her, and the movie. We went into Theater 6 and chose seats right in the center.
That's really not
about
good.
4 rows from the back. It was freezing in there, which Emily pointed out right away. I offered her my hoodie, and we laughed about how creepy it felt being the only ones in the entire
yeah,
room.
nervous laughter.
We sat back and talked while waiting for the previews to start. I was starting to feel a little chemistry between us, and I figured this would be one of those dates where you actually end up seeing the person again. Then, right before the movie started, like right after the last trailer and just as the lights dimmed lower, I noticed movement from the corner of my eye. Someone walked into the theater. They didn't say anything or stop to look around or check their phone for seat numbers like most people do. They walked in slow, straight up the steps, and
Also, I just realized this is 2022. How is no one at the movie theater or even trying to watch this movie? Like, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like, even if it was only like 3 other people, like, where are they?
sat directly behind us. I mean, directly. There were maybe 100 open seats, but he
Yeah.
chose the one right behind me. Emily turned to look at him too, and she gave me a weird glance like, really?
Exactly. Like, yo, I would have stood up and be like, yo, bro, seriously? You could have sat anywhere else and you had to sit here? Meet me outside. Like, come on.
I kind of chuckled and said under my breath, figures. But right away, something felt
Or maybe you
off.
didn't want me lonely.
You know that feeling when someone's eyes are burning into the back of your head? That's what it felt like. I glanced back after a minute or two. He wasn't watching the screen. He was staring at us. I only saw him for a split
Now
second,
you got a problem.
but he didn't flinch or look away. He didn't even pretend to be interested in the movie. He was just sitting forward a bit, like someone might do if they were really into a scene, but his face wasn't even turned toward the screen. It was angled right at us. At me. I whispered to Emily, he's just staring. She nodded slowly and whispered back, I know. We tried to ignore it for a while.
Just leave. Like,
The movie started, and I really did try to get into it, but every few minutes,
yo,
I'd feel it again.
you are literally a cuck. Like, yo, stand up, talk to him, beat his ass, or just leave. Like, come on, bro. On a first date too. Like, I know you don't want to go seem like crazy to her, but like, geez, bro. Like, you feel him staring. Like, yo, just stare back at him. Honestly.
The presence behind us. Not just someone being annoying, this was different. There was an intensity to it, like he was waiting for something. After about 20
Probably waiting
minutes,
for you to stand up
I
and
leaned
confront
forward
him.
in my seat and turned my head a little so I could glance back more casually. Same thing. He was still staring. He was middle-aged, maybe late 40s. He was clean-shaven, kind of pale, wearing a dark gray hoodie. Something about him just looked empty, like he wasn't even there mentally. His eyes didn't look glazed over like someone who was zoning out. From what I saw, he never blinked. I turned back around and whispered to Emily, this guy is really creeping me out.
Okay, let me just split screen this using the fancy Opera browser. Yeah, let's just buy both. Link below to download it for free.
She looked genuinely scared now. Do you want to move? We considered it, but where would we go? It would still be in the same room.
Out of the theater, man. Like, just like, fuck it. Like, get out of the theater. And if he's still following you, beat his ass.
And we
Like
were
I
already
said.
in the best seats. Moving might make it awkward or even provoke him.
So
A few
what?
minutes later, I felt something. The guy breathed on me. Not loud or exaggerated. It was soft.
Depending on where you felt it, let's just say this side of your neck. Immediate. Come on, bro.
But
Let's do this.
unmistakable. A deep, slow exhale right behind my seat.
Immediately, bro. I'm
I
telling
spun
you.
around, and he was leaning forward over the back of my seat.
I would have rocked this
His
shit.
face closer than it should have been.
Like, come on.
I stared at him and said, dude, can you not? He didn't respond.
Too late for that, bro.
Just slowly leaned back in his seat. That was it. I told Emily, let's move. We got up and walked
You're a
down to the
cuck.
front corner row. It sucked and the angle was bad, but we needed distance. I could barely focus on the movie.
You're literally a
anymore.
cuck.
Just kept glancing back every couple of minutes. And every time I looked back there, he was staring straight at us. He didn't budge. Around halfway through the movie, we heard footsteps. He was coming down the steps.
Yeah, bro. Stand up.
Emily grabbed my arm and we both held
At this
still.
point.
The footsteps stopped a few rows above us. We didn't turn around. I don't know how long he stood there. I didn't dare look. Then, finally, he walked back up to the top row. I whispered, we need to leave. She nodded.
Like, 20 minutes too
Grabbed our
late.
stuff and slipped out quietly. As we exited the theater and went down the hallway toward the lobby, I glanced back through the glass window in the theater door. He was standing in the aisle now. He wasn't watching the screen. He was just standing there, still staring at us. We went straight to the front and told the concession guy that someone was acting really weird in Theater 6. His smile faded instantly, and he said, again? What do you mean, again? I said.
Again. Like,
He hesitated, then said, he's been coming in randomly for like a month. Always late shows and never buys anything. You guys aren't the first ones to complain about him. I responded,
Would've been
why
the
hasn't
last.
anyone kicked him out? He looked uncomfortable. He said, he doesn't technically do anything illegal. Management says unless he touches someone or breaks a rule, we can't really do much. Emily was almost in tears.
I would have broke the rule.
She asked if someone could walk us to our car. He agreed, and one of the janitors walked us out. The guy didn't follow us that night. At least, not that we saw. But the whole ride back, I couldn't shake this fear that he might have written down my license plate, that he might have followed us at a distance, watched us leave, and found out where Emily lived when I dropped her off. For weeks afterward, I was paranoid. My cop friend also told me it was a load of horseshit that they couldn't do anything about him.
Cop friend.
The
Did you do
theater as a
something?
business would reserve every right to kick somebody out. I avoided that side of town for a while. Emily and I talked a few times after that, but never ended up seeing each other again, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you are a cuck. I mean, I'm sorry. This is going to be a crazy moment in my channel history. I'm breaking character. Yo, bro. You fucking suck, bro. The moment that he was just going behind you, the first thing you should do, yo, bro, you couldn't sit anywhere else. Okay. And then later on, I don't care. Bro, as soon as he breathed on you, instant either backhand like this or standing up and swinging at him, bro. I don't care, bro. Who cares? Like, bro, you are not doing this on a first date. Like, come on, bro. Nah, get your bitch ass out of here, bro. No fucking joke. Like, how are you just gonna sit there and let him breathe on you and basically cuck you, bro? Like, come on, bro. Get your bitch ass. Like, no wonder why she didn't want to go stay with you because you didn't do anything about it. Fucking bitch, bro. Like, that could have been your future wife right there. But no, you want to be the cuck and just let him do whatever he wanted to do. And then you move seats, like, okay. And then you saw him come back down. I would have stood up and walked towards him. Like, who cares if you had a knife? I mean, okay, if you had a knife, and like, it's raps. But like, yo, I'm telling you, bro, he's getting his ass beat, and I don't care if I'm getting arrested. I have a witness, Emily. She'll be there and be like, yeah, this dude is actually creeping on us, and like, I don't care, bro. So what if she sees you being angry or whatever, bro? It's justifiable as to why you would be. It's 2022 at that story. It's the end of 2022, man. You're watching Smile? Maybe bro was one of the Smile. Like, you know what I mean? He might have been, actually. But, like, either way, regardless, like, no, bro, I'm not. I'm not letting that happen. You're getting your ass beat. You're getting a broken nose, broken jaw, something. Yeah, bro. Get out of here, bro. No wonder why she didn't keep talking to you. Jeez, bro. Like, I mean, Jesus fuck. I had to do this, bro. Like, it was just, I don't know how long the story was. It was like when the moment it started was like the last 5 minutes. I've been sitting here for 5 minutes watching, listening to you being a bitch. Like, come on, bro. Get out of here. I would not let this happen. I promise you that, bro. This would not happen to me. And like, even initially, bro, I'd be like, yo, fuck it. Get out of here. Like, as soon as he sat behind you and looked at you, I'm like, yeah, we're out of here. At least. If that was like the non-confrontational route, fine. But like, I would have stood on my business, bro. I would have stood on business. Beat his ass, bro. I don't care. And like, the freaking cashier said like, oh, this is normal. It's been happening for a month. You're not the first. Oh yeah, I would have been the last. We would have been the last couple that he would have did that to. I'm like, come on. Whatever, man. 3 disturbing true scary stories. Not even that disturbing. Like, I can't believe this. Shout out Mr. Nightmare. Link to the video will be in the description. Like that video, like this video. Comment down below what you would have done on this last story. I mean, yeah. Subscribe, turn on the bell. This is probably the only time that I would do this. I just had to do it for this, bro. You suck, bro. What's your name? I got to see your name, bro. What was your name? Tommy or something? Tommy May, bro. Get out of here, bro. You fucking suck, bro. I'm sorry. Like, you should have just stood on. Like, why didn't you do anything about it? Whatever. Stay tuned for more.